Hello. I hope everyone is still awake and has some space in their brain. So yeah, my name is Dave Hakkens. I'm a designer. It's going to be a one-slide presentation. Is there another button? Okay, yeah. I'm Dave. I'm a designer from the Netherlands, which is there. Same country as Dan is from. And today I'll talk a little bit just what I've learned from working on global problems. So back in school when I studied, there are a lot of things you can make as a designer. You could make like chairs, tables, cutlery, but I was never really interested or very good at that, at making things look pretty. I was always more interested in to start with a problem, to work on something like useful. So one of the old projects I did was that if you have a pen, basically the pen, the only thing you really need is the ink, and the whole plastic thing around it is just there to hold the ink. So if you at some point finished the pen, you throw the whole pen away. So I was thinking, what if you could eat your pen? So I made this edible pen from candy and edible ink. So in the end, when you finish your ink, you also ate your pen, so you don't have any waste. You could also have them in different flavors. So this was sort of a project I did at school. It was kind of fun, but it's just a pen. I mean, it doesn't really do that much. And there wasn't really something behind it. I just put it on my website and that was it. So I was thinking, okay, now I need to do something that goes a bit more like global, something that reaches the world a bit more. So I was looking into phone waste. So these are all like smartphones or phones. And basically if you have a phone, it lasts around 2 years and then you either throw it away or it gets too slow, so you replace it with another one, or it just breaks. And this creates a lot of electronic waste. And it only gets more and more because more people in the world are using phones, more is being produced. So I was looking into this and it seems to be quite a big problem. So I was thinking maybe I can do something about it. So I made this concept for a modular phone. So here's a short video about that.
So this is a new kind of phone.
And maybe the volume can up a bit.
It's made of blocks. Detachable blocks. They are all connected to the base, and the base connects everything together. Electrical signals are transferred through the pins, and 2 small screws lock everything in place. So if, for instance, your phone is getting a little slow, you can just upgrade the block that affects the speed. Or if something breaks, you can easily replace it with a new one, or update it with the latest version. Another great thing about this is, you can customize your phone. So let's say this is your phone and you do everything in the cloud. Why not replace your storage block for a bigger battery block? If you're like this guy and love to take pictures, why not upgrade your camera? Or if you don't care about any of this stuff, you can keep it simple and get a bigger speaker. You can choose the blocks you want, support the brands you like, or even develop your own blocks.
Yes, so that was roughly the concept for a phone. So a phone where you can replace parts, components, and keep upgrading it, and don't throw the whole thing away every 2 years. But that was basically all I had, just an idea of something, and I had a video. And the goal was to try to gather a lot of people to support the idea. And then hopefully companies see there's maybe a market for it, so they would make it. So just trying to trigger the industry to make something like this. And in my head it was always like a, 20-year vision, like something to work towards. So I put it on the internet. And then a lot of people start supporting it, sharing it. We have this guy from the Black Eyed Peas, says it's the dopest thing ever. Do you guys know the Black Eyed Peas here? I don't but yeah. But after just a lot of people supporting it, I also suddenly got a lot of emails from companies that were just wondering, like, what is this thing? What are you doing? What's your plan? And one of those companies was Google. They wanted to also make a modular phone, so we got in touch. I dropped by at Google, and they had like this big prototype of, the first time I came was really like the size of a fridge almost. And then slowly, every time I came and visited, it became a bit smaller and smaller. And in the end, it really was like a phone, like with different components, different parts. You could replace your screen. And in the end, this is what the final model was like. So you could change your camera, different modules, the batteries, which was kind of impressive because I remember when I came the first, it was super big and I thought this is going to take like years. And in 2 years, they managed to make a bootable phone like that. But then at some point, Google decided to focus more on software and not hardware. So they just killed a lot of projects they did. One of them was this one. So it was just like, boom, gone. I was kind of impressed by that because I was sort of following this from the sideline. I wasn't super involved, but I've seen the amount of resources and manpower they put into this thing, and they just killed it like that. I mean, it didn't really hurt me personally. Like, I didn't really invest anything in it, but I was just impressed by the amount of resources sort of wasted. But after that, you had some companies making more modular phones. So for instance, LG released a more modular phone, or Fairphone, a company from the Netherlands as well. They made a phone where you can replace some components. And they're not as modular as the idea I proposed, but they're sort of getting a little bit into that direction. And I think that was also more the plan behind it. It was never my intention to me personally make a phone, but just hoping that that industry would go more towards modular, upgradable electronics so we don't replace it and throw it away every time. So that was the phone project. And what I learned from that it was actually quite powerful to just share an idea. So you just have something in your head, you make a video out of it, and you give it to the people. And then suddenly that can sort of grow on its own, and you see people taking it and changing it. So basically sort of educating, because a lot of people also after that project, they became aware of phone waste. Like they weren't before aware even that's a thing, that you create a lot of waste with your phone. And I think that was maybe the powerful thing behind it, that once you're aware, it changes a little bit the way how you look at your phone the next time. So I had this other project called Story Hopper. So it's basically a project, it's a much simpler project, but it's where I try things that I think make sense, but I'm not really sure if they do, and make little videos out of that, and hopefully it sort of educates people or people learn something out of it. So I have one short video I'll show you. It's basically about, I guess the video should explain it. So we'll just watch that one. But maybe you have to translate it if it's in English. So I'll briefly explain in the end if it was not clear. This is just an ordinary toothbrush. Last week I needed to make it fit this case, but it didn't. So I cut off a piece to make it work. And it still holds alright, even with my rather large hands. But most importantly, now it fits. So this small piece is kind of useless. Which made me think, what if we were to make all our toothbrushes smaller? Production methods pretty much stays the same. Transportation won't change, and it won't cost more. But it would require a little less material to make it. And it still works great. So I did some math. The average weight of this little part is about 0.8 gram. And we use about 3 brushes each year. In these places it's common to brush your teeth, which are about 2 billion people, and this ends up in a lot of toothbrushes and material. But math was never my strong point, so I also dove into some researches. And to not overestimate the situation, went for the lowest outcome. if we were to make our toothbrushes smaller, we would save at least 64,000 kilogram plastic each year. And this is just a toothbrush. Imagine. Hey, easy. So yeah, these videos are more there made to just put out a thought. It's not really a project, you don't really make something, it's not something you can sell or people can use, but it's more, you know, hopefully it makes maybe other people think, or people that manufacture stuff or create things, that even the size of things has quite a big impact if you think on a global scale. So that was just one video. Another video or something I tried was, we got an old chicken from the chicken industry that produces eggs, and it needs to produce one egg every day, and after 1 year they usually don't do that anymore, so they shred them into hot dogs because they're not productive anymore. So we took care of that chicken, and well, now it's just it was like a healthy chicken in the end. Just to give the chicken a new life, so there's also like a little video about that. Another one is that I had a fake and a real shoe from Nike, so the real and the fake one, and I started using them for 1 year to see the difference between fake and real, because I was always kind of curious, like, is fake worse quality than real? So after 1 year, this is what they look like. The real one was better, so I learned that. And another thing I was always interested in, more like, a lot of things happen in your mind. And I feel we spend a lot of time keeping our body healthy. We run, we drink juices, we sport. But with our mind, we don't really do that much, whereas I feel it's quite an important thing of our life. So we have all these things about Buddhism, meditation, but I didn't really know that much about it. So I spent 10 days living with monks. You don't talk, you meditate for 14 hours a day, and you cannot look the other people in the eyes, no contact, just to see what that is like. It was actually quite nice. In the end, you really have a very empty mind, which I don't think I ever had that before like that. And last one is this project is where I went to Chile in South America, where they mine lithium. And lithium is used in cars, phones, electronic devices that has a battery, basically. And I was just there around, and then I realized, oh, there's a lithium mine, cool. So I went to check it out. And I also dove into the topic of, well, we produce a lot of electric things, electric cars. What is the impact of that? Is there enough lithium in the world? Can we even sort of keep it up with the scale we're going? So I made a video about that as well. So on the website, storyhopper.com, I have many more of these videos where I visit landfills or just check places in the world I would usually not go. Yeah, so that was kind of the purpose of that project, and it's still going on. Every now and then I make a video if I see something cool or interesting, I want to try out something. So what I learned from the phone project was that it's kind of dangerous to put an idea in the hands of, let's say, a company like Google, because if they don't like it anymore, they can just kill it and then the idea is gone. And what I did like about the video project is that you can just share something you have in your head, and suddenly over the internet, millions of people around the world can use that idea or do something with it. So for this project, I kind of combined those two things, and I really wanted to build like a strong community that the idea cannot be killed, basically. Yeah, so this project is called Precious Plastic. And this one basically started when I noticed how much plastic waste there is in the world. And they say that less than 10% of all our plastic gets recycled. So most of it gets either burned, it goes to the landfill, or it ends up in the ocean. And all three ways are kind of shitty. Because if you have plastic as a material, you can chop it into small pieces, and then you can mold it into something new. So I was wondering, why doesn't this happen? Like, why do we recycle so little? So I started visiting the factories or the industry to just understand the problem, because I didn't know anything about it. So first to the factories where they make the raw material, then where they turn it into a product, to the places where it's being packed, then to the companies that make the machines that make the product, finally the transportation, and in the end, where does it end up, all this plastic waste? Just to understand the problem and how is it going. So I mapped it out for you. So basically, let me use my laser. If you have a shop, well, that thing, you buy plastic, you use it, and then you throw it away. And I was particularly interested in the 10% that gets recycled, like what happens with that. So basically, you have someone that picks it up, goes to a company that sorts it out, goes to another company that washes it, another one that shreds it, and then another one that stabilizes it, and then it goes back into production, which is basically a lot of steps, takes a lot of time, effort. Industry doesn't really like to do that. It's just easier to buy new plastic, so that's what they do. So I was thinking, what if you could make this simpler? What if you could bring this to a guy like me? I take care of the plastic and turn it into something new. But looking into this, I realized, what you kind of need that on every place in the world, like a place where you can bring your trash and turn it into something new, like these local recycling stations. But you can't really do that. Like if you want to make something from wood, you buy a hammer and a saw, you make something. If you want to make something from metal, you get a grinder and a welding machine, and you make something. But for plastic, you can't really do that because the machines are not really available. They're only in the very big industry, and they cost hundreds of thousands of euros. So, yeah, it seemed like I needed to make these machines. And then I really wanted to make the machines that they could be produced anywhere in the world. So I also did a big material research of, in other sides of the world, how do they build stuff? For instance, here's in Ghana in Africa, and they have a completely different way of building than we have in the Netherlands. But besides building machines, there was also just a lot to figure out about plastic, like that there are different types of plastic, different colors, how does it behave, different melting temperatures. Same, I just didn't know anything about plastic, and there's very little information available because it's just a relatively new material to us. So if you have plastic and you heat it up, how does the plastic flow? And if you heat it up, does it come out the same way as you planned it? So there was still a lot to learn about the material. And in the end, I made 4 different machines. So you have a shredder that shreds it into small flakes. And with the other 3 machines, you can basically heat it up and mold it into something. But I also have a little video about that, which explains it better than I would do. And you can also see the Netherlands. yeah, so with this workspace you can make things from plastic. So for instance, you could make bowls or clipboards, iPhone cases, and it really depends where, yeah, what makes sense to you to make. So we just make a few examples, some wall tiles or beams, so you can construct bigger things with it. So that was my workspace in the Netherlands, but yeah, you want these workspaces to be all over the world because there's plastic waste all over the world. So a crucial part of this project is that we share all the blueprints of these machines open source online for free. So everyone in the world can just download the drawings and start making the machines themselves. But also really step-by-step instruction videos like how do you make these machines, posters that help you to set up the space, some stickers, some labels, just this complete package of setting up your recycling workspace. And that's kind of the cool thing about the internet, that once you put it online, people can just download it and see what happens. So for instance, here's some people in South Korea that built these machines, some students in Budapest, some guys in Indonesia, some girls in Taiwan, a dad that's making a shredder with his kids in Mexico, more students in Mexico, Vietnam, makerspace in China, and some people use it to prototype, others use it to set up a production, others use it for education, like here in Spain. This one is also in Korea, Uganda. So these are just a few examples of our community, some guys in Ukraine. And this is actually kind of cool, that he makes the machine and he develops a technique that I wouldn't be able to do, like the things he made, I wouldn't be able to do it. So he gets better at it. And that's kind of interesting for us to see as well, that the community, they take the drawings and they improve it, or they find their own way to it. Here's some woman in Indonesia, some guys in Slovakia. Yeah, some guy teaching children in Bali the importance of recycling. But besides that, you also have companies using it. I don't know if you know Lush, they make like soaps and stuff. So they build our extruder and put it in the shop. And usually actually they don't really tell us, they just take it and then someone finds it on the internet and says, hey, that's your machine. I'm like, ah, cool. And people also use it to sell them. So this is a guy that sells the shredder, and he also made a bigger version out of it. Yeah, so people all over the world sort of making these products with it. And we kind of like that as well. If they sell the things they make, we actually really support that. Because it sort of creates an economy around recycled plastic, and it helps them to sustain themselves. So we also created this online marketplace called a bazaar, where you can sell your products that you made, but also machine parts. So as a machine builder, you can sell machines. And also for some people, they don't know how to make machines, but they would like to sell one. So you can sort of or buy one. So you can sort of locally just buy a machine or molds or products. Yeah, so a lot of things you can buy on there. And this is always under development, always new products coming out, more people working on it. So if we have the world map, about now we have around 300 of these workspaces around the world of people that downloaded the drawings, set up a workspace, and start recycling plastic. But recently we also had this feature installed here that you can say, I want to get started. Because we noticed many more people sort of want to start, but maybe it's too difficult to build the machines, maybe they don't have the money, maybe they're not very good in product design. So we tried to bring them together so they can collaborate locally. So with this pin, you can see everyone that wants to get started, which is about 10,000 people or something. So really trying to develop this tool that people locally can collaborate easier. So for instance, here is in Korea, 2 workspaces actually. I'll visit one tomorrow. So in here you could really see, like if you want to get started, you could first click the other pins and connect with those people. Yeah, so but as you can see, like 10,000 more people want to get started, and many more people need to get started if you want to recycle all the plastic in the world. So yeah, maybe we should improve something. And that's what we often do, always like improving, making better machines, better products, better software for people to connect. So a while ago, yeah, we were thinking maybe we should make a new version of the project, version 4. We already made 3 versions before, to just improve everything we have. But before, we did everything with very minimum budget, so people donate to the project and we develop. And this time we got a free workspace in the Netherlands that the municipality said, do you want to use this for 1 year? So we're like, okay, sounds cool. We won an award of 300,000 euro, which is quite a lot. So we figured maybe we should invite people from all over the world that want to work on this project in that workspace, and we give them a house, food, and we pay for materials and tools so they can develop the project. So we got over 50 people from around the world, from machine builders, product designers, web developers, vegan chefs, people that like to do finance and Excel sheets, to bring them all together to make this new version in our workspace, so it's not empty anymore. It's a lot of stuff in there now, actually. So we've been doing that for the last year, and we're actually releasing this new version end of this year. So a few things we have, for instance, is a machine that can make big sheets. So we never had that before, that you could really make very big things. And with a machine, you could use a lot of other tools with it. Another area we're exploring is the sorting of plastics, and also more robotic or like industrial way. Because that's often a problem with plastic, that there are many different types, how to recognize them, so working on a scanner for that. And also looking a bit into the future of plastic, like recycling is something we like to do now, but we would say we stop making new plastic, we recycle everything we have, because there's still a lot of material in the world we can use. And meanwhile, we think about new solutions for the material plastic, like how can we replace it in more organic, natural ways that can actually compost and biodegrade. So that's also a research project going on there. Yeah, so that will all be released end of this year online with many videos and stuff. So if you want to see that, you can go to pressplastic.com. And one side note for this project, so the project is called Precious Plastic, because we really see plastic as a valuable, precious material. It's the material that lasts the longest on Earth, but for some reason we use it to make the most disposable things out there. But if you have wood, it would rot away, metal would rust away, but plastic stays here forever. So we always try to do that as well, like really try to give it more of a, instead of thinking about waste, really think about a valuable like resource. Yeah, so that was Fresh Plastic. And then whoa, not yet. Then I have one very short project I recently started. I haven't really talked about it much yet, so sometimes I don't find the words properly. But it's basically, when I'm working on all these projects, it's very specific, like phone waste, plastic waste, or a pen. But if I look at my own life, I leave quite a big footprint just because I live in the developed world. By, let's say, a banana I buy in the supermarket that comes all the way from Colombia in a ship that runs on diesel, or the lights in the streets that are always on, whether I like it or not, but that takes energy. The clothes I buy, where they come from. So a lot of infrastructure around me is quite wasteful, just because it's there. The buildings we live in that are made from concrete, which you can't recycle. So the more I thought about that, I was thinking, well, we kind of need to rethink the whole way how we live. Like maybe we'd find another thing than this capitalistic system where we live in. Maybe we should live more in smaller communities off-grid, that we can harvest our own food, or make our own clothes, or harvest our energy from different resources than how we do it now. So a project I recently started is Project Camp. It's basically kind of that, like trying to reinvent how I would live. So really having more shared spaces, like cooking together, growing your own food, still having a workspace to develop projects, connected to the internet, but really trying to figure out for myself, but hopefully also for others, like how can you live in a way that is less damaging for this planet? And with the same angle as with precious plastic, so that we would share everything what we learn open source online for free, that if someone else on the other side of the world also thinks, I would like to be less, leave less big of a footprint or find a way to get my own energy or grow my own vegetables, to sort of make that documentation more accessible. So we're now looking to buy a piece of land in Portugal, in the south of Europe. But this probably project is going to take me like 30 years. So yeah, it's very early stage. But yeah, that's something I would sort of like to work on more in the future. Yeah, that was my presentation.